So on the topic of underreporting then, now I've got a study here which is called Assessing Dietary Intake, Who, What, and Why of Underreporting. And we know that underreporting food intake is probably one of the primary obstacles which get in the way of people being able to have success when it comes to calorie counting diets. Now, I'm just reading through this that underreporting in sort of large nutritional surveys tends to range up to anywhere from like 50% to like 70%. So that's quite high. And that happens on a regular basis. They've also done these street surveys where they kind of just show pictures of food to people on the street. Not as accurate, obviously, but people can underreport by almost as much as 300%. So like they would see a 1,200 calorie plate of food in a picture in front of them. You stop on the street as something like 300 or 400 calories. And that's pretty crazy. So it shows just what the mind sees. Now, we know that everyone does this. So this is not an attack at anyone. We know that everyone underreport or underestimates, I should say. Everyone underestimates how much is on their plate unless they've had decades and decades of counting accurately by weighing things out. Everyone does it, no matter whether you're lean, naturally lean, or whether you're naturally fat. Everyone does it. The only difference is it's more likely that somebody who's obese does it to a greater extent. Also, due to their genetics, they're probably less likely to get away with it as well. So it's a kind of a 1-2 punch combination there. It's one, it's a psychological thing. They're more likely to underreport and buy more. And two, the physical side of things, they're going to be less able to actually deal with the excess calories than somebody who's genetically predisposed to being leaner. We know there are genetic variances with how people deal with excess calories. Like that's a different point altogether, but you can overfeed some people and they just burn it off. Overfeed other people, they just gain a ton of weight. So underreporting calories becomes a problem for those people. It doesn't become a problem for somebody who's naturally lean and has got high activity level, high muscle mass, because even if they overeat, they just burn it off. And to the outside world, it seems like they are perfectly in control of everything and they're eating a perfect diet. But the reality is they're just not genetically predisposed to it. But that's going off topic a little bit. Main point is underreporting calories. I'll also say this, food labels are particularly damaging. And like you were saying before, unless you're cooking your own food and weighing it out, you're going to be at the mercy of food labels, which I was speaking to Steve Shaw from Massive Iron. He said in America, they've seen differences of 25% on US food labels, which is pretty insane. Like, so 1,000 calorie food label could be, like 1,250 calories actually. And that's quite a lot. And those 250 calories are enough to throw a small woman out of a deficit or a small guy out of a deficit. So underreporting calories is a massive thing, really. And I'll touch on one last point. It's a very difficult conversation to have with a client. Like, look, you're trying your hardest. You're probably even a little bit hungry, but you're not losing weight, more than likely because you're underreporting calories. It's an extremely difficult conversation to have because there is a lot of emotional attachment attached to what we eat, how much we eat, and our self-worth. And if we're trying and somebody's saying, you're still eating too much, even though they're just trying to help you, it can be taken as a very negative thing by some clients. And it's a difficult conversation for a coach to have. It's not something that I enjoy doing, but it's certainly part of the job.
With the approach, because they've told me, they feel, I guess what I want to say is there's no confidence in the over-restricting mindset. I found that with my clients now, that they're a lot more confident in what works, like really works, and is sustainable. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think confidence is a big thing. I think people that do the over-restricting thing, there's no confidence in the approach or there's no education behind it.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, there are 2 types of people who walk through my doors. The first type of person knows full well they've been overeating, like throughout, say, the lockdown or whatever. That's a very rare type of person because generally those people, they know they've been overeating, so they just pull it in a little bit and they get on their way before they hire a coach, right? The much more common type of person who goes through my doors is, look, I feel like I'm hardly eating anything. I don't feel like I'm eating much. and I still can't lose any weight, and I'm still like 50 pounds overweight. Faz, help me. I'm broken. I can't eat, I don't eat anything, and I'm still gaining weight. I still can't lose weight. What the hell's going on now? The typical cycle for those people is this. Usually they'll wake up in the morning, they won't have breakfast, okay, because they're too busy. Breakfast might be like a coffee and a croissant. That's it. And they won't really consider that to be a breakfast. It's just coffee and a croissant. So it's just really just caffeine and sugar, right? They've had so far. Then at lunch, there'll be something going around the office because, come on, let's face it, we know that it's everyone's birthday. If it's not Sam's birthday from account, it's Karen's birthday from whatever, and then it's whoever's dog's birthday. So there's always some kind of cake in the office. So you smash that. So you're still not really at anything which is going to sustain you. If anything, you could argue that those two things are going to make you more hungry going into the afternoon. Then in the afternoon, they still don't feel like they've eaten much. So they've got the kids to pick up from school. Then they play around with the kids, do the homework while they're just snacking on some chocolate, all that kind of stuff. And then by the time it gets to like 7 o'clock for the evening meal, they're like, look, I've ate nothing all day. I've ate nothing all day, Faz. See, I eat nothing, right? And reality is they probably ate about 1,500 calories worth of just croissants, chocolates, snacks, cakes. It's very easy to do. And if you're sitting there going, that's a big number, then trust me, I know. Like, we work with people like this all the time. So they've already at 1,500 calories, but they feel like they've hardly ate anything. So they need to have a big, hearty evening meal because I've got a whole day of work to go to tomorrow, and I didn't eat anything today, right? I worked hard. I went to my job, picked up the kids from school, I helped the kids with their work, did an after-school thing, all that kind of stuff. I've been working hard. I've been eating nothing. I'm a martyr. Like, just put me on the cross already. So they smash another like 2,000 calories in the evening with a glass of wine to boot, because why not, right? So boom, we've got a figure of about 3,000 calories. Now, that's most people. Then when you get to the weekend, it's everything just on steroids. It's like times by 10. Because like, whoa, all week I've ate nothing. All week I've ate nothing. I'm a martyr. And so they just smash it on the weekend. Now, obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's generally the bulk of what goes through my doors. People who feel like they're hardly eating anything, and they're always hungry because they feel like they're hardly eating anything, and then they tend to overeat in the evenings and on the weekends. So, going back to the point of, well, this is the point I'm trying to make about over restriction. When people start a diet, they take that model and they restrict massively. So they take the morning croissant, the lunchtime, whatever, and they replace it with salad, which is not bad. It's getting there. Or they might skip breakfast. But in the end, rather than the 1,500 calories they had at the beginning of the day, they might come into the evening with like 200 calories, 300, because they've had, a salad, a slice of apple, and a coffee and good intentions. So they get to the evening and they're absolutely starving, or they manage to get their way to the weekend and they're absolutely starving, because they would have been horrified to think they've been eating 3,000 calories a day, when in actuality they have been. They feel they've probably been eating more like 2,000, 1,800, so then they restrict massively down to about 1,200 calories. 1,200 is always the golden number. You ever notice that? You ask someone what they're eating, 1,200 calories, I swear to God. That's like, all right. It's always 1,200. Why is it always 1,200? So anyway, and if it's not 1,200, it's 800. But anyway, so they restrict massively. And then they get to the weekend and they're gone from their previously 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, where they felt like they were eating nothing. They've gone down to sort of 800, 1,200, 1,600 calories. So they end up binging. So in the end, during the course of a week, they've nullified any deficit. They've ate it all back on the weekend, or they've ate it all back in the evenings. So in the end, what you're left with is a very stressed out individual who is not losing weight because they're eating back all the calories because of the binge. They still get all the negatives of being in a deficit for most of the week. They feel tired, they get the metabolic slowdown, and they get all the maintenance and all weight gain of somebody who's binging by offsetting that. So they're literally getting the worst of both worlds.